Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today got a Death Seal Lich build for you that's also going to use Bone Curse and Soul Feast. And Soul Feast thing will do quite a bit of damage for you, not as much as Death Wave, but it'll be enough to kill off trash mobs and things while your Death Seal is on cooldown, and also it's going to give you a bunch of armor and poison resist. Now on top of that, we'll be in Reaper form, so you have that free life. We're going to be running low life most of the time, and basically your main source of damage, your big damage hits, will come from Death Seal with the Death Wave on its own. I'll be doing a second build with this that's completely based around the Hungering Souls, but I'm still putting that one together, and this way is completely viable as well. The survivability is good. You can go 300 plus corruption. You can beat tier 4 jeweler with this. It's really not too difficult, especially considering you have that free life ability. You have a movement skill reap, which you can use all of the time, and your damage is very, very high. Now in this gameplay, there's no exalted items being used. There is one unique, but it is not a legendary, so there is much more improvement you can do for this build in terms of both crit chance, total damage output, and then legendaries, of course, that you could make to make the damage get even higher. But even as is, it still does 300 plus corruption with ease, and you can also snapshot. Now in the gameplay, there is no snapshotting, but you will see that Aura of Decay is there, and you can have it heal you for your full amount of life. It does take some snapshotting. Didn't do that in here, but I will go over how you can do that to really maximize the build the best that you can in order to push the highest you can, and of course that would be possible until snapshotting is no longer a thing. But let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how this build works. For skills, I'm running Soul Feast, Death Seal, Aura of Decay, Reaper Form, and Bone Curse. For Soul Feast, we have this set up so it's going to give you a bunch of armor and poison resist when you use it on enemies that have poison on them, which will happen because you do have some poison chance, especially when at low life and you're going to be putting poison on enemies. This amount of armor can boost you really quick because it's per hit that you do with them, so if you do a bunch of enemies really quick within 4 seconds, you can actually get yourself to 50% plus armor without really building into any of it at all, which is really nice. It also does quite a bit of damage and has a chance to recast. So we've got 4 points in Grim Affliction for the 120% boosted damage, 3 points in Sharpened Influence for the mana efficiency, also so you can attack at maximum targets is increased so you can hit more enemies, 1 point in Renewed Feast to not make the mana get too ridiculous, but there is a chance when you use it that instead of only attacking once, it'll do up to 3 times. 2 points in Poisoned Husk for poison chance, 1 point in Deceased Soul for global poison chance, and then 1 point in Toxic Craving. This consumes all the poison stacks on an enemy and gives you 20% increased armor per stack and 15% poison resist. Now, the poison resist doesn't really matter because you're going to build into that anyway, but the armor is huge because you can get thousands of percent increased armor just based on that and really boost yourself. 4 points in Hunger for cast speed and mana efficiency, 1 point in Grand Impact so that it no longer requires cursed enemies for it to affect it, but you now have a cone area of effect, and then 3 points in Devour for 120% increased area of that cone. So it's really easy, you just aim towards the enemy, use it, and it hits them. You don't have to worry about putting Mark of Death. If you don't want to use these, Bone Curse does put Mark of Death on the enemy, so feel free to just do Bone Curse. And then this, however, it's going to make it to where you have to cast Bone Curse first to get Mark of Death on the enemy, or a curse on the enemy, before it will affect them. So this way is the easiest, and it's very beneficial when you're on your downtime, when you're waiting for the cooldown of Death Seal to replenish so you can use it again, to just cast this off and still get kills and be able to get armor in the meantime. For Death Seal, we do have +2 levels to this. I will tell you which 2 points to take out if you don't have the max, but we have it set up with 2 points in Moratorium, 2 points in Carrion Breath, 1 point in the Quick and the Dead, 3 points in Doom Call so that you get more damage, 10% more damage with the Death Wave per stack of Damned on yourself. You'll get Damned 2 ways. One, you'll get it whenever you have Death Seal active. It'll automatically put them onto you every few seconds, and while you are using a spell with the weapon that we have, the Unique, it also gives you a stack of Damned on yourself, so this will make a lot of extra damage for you. We then have 5 points in Corrupted Consciousness, so you have increased damage per percentage of missing health. When you activate this, you'll automatically be reduced to low life thanks to the 3 points in Desperate Shroud and then 1 point into Deadlock, so that you're automatically at 33% of your maximum health when you activate it, and you'll stay there until Death Seal is deactivated. 1 point in Moral Pulse for the Death Wave, and then 4 points in Tachycardia so that the Death Wave goes off 48% more frequently, and you have 240% increased critical strike chance with it. Overall, you have about a 55% crit chance to crit with the Death Wave in this build with the gear that I have, but again, you can get to 100% if you continue to get better gears. Some Exalted spell crit chance and such will definitely get you there in a hurry. For Aura of Decay, we're just using this for healing and for armor shred. So we've got 4 points in Absence of Life so that you're healed for 8% of your missing health. every second. Now remember, you will be low life, so that heal is very nice. And then also remember that when you're sealed, you can only fill your health up so much, so it basically just counts as a little extra life. This does scale with healing effectiveness, and it does snapshot. So I said I would talk about the snapshotting. If you get yourself about, I think it's 900% healing effectiveness, you're going to be very close to getting 100% of your health healed. I think it's actually a little bit more than that, but you can get 100% of all your missing health healed per second. And then once you have Aura of Decay active, you can take this off and even unspecialize it and then skill into something else. That's how snapshot it is. So you can throw healing effectiveness gear and idols on your gear on, and then switch it all back once you have Aura of Decay active. It is snapshotting, and again, it'll probably go away in the future, but for now, you can technically do that and increase your survivability even more. Also got 4 points in Undertow, 3 points in Corrosive Aura, 1 point in Decryptify for that armor shred chance instead of poison chance, 4 points in Plague Rat for increased area, and 1 point in Inoculation so that you take less poison damage while it's active. And then the last 3 points are in Chill to the Bone, so there's chill chance every second for enemies that are in the Aura of Decay. For Reperform, we just have this set up for a bunch of damage. It also gives us a little bit of base armor, which is nice. It synergizes with the fact we get a lot of increased armor from Soul Feast. We have 3 points in Mistress of Decay, 4 points in Harbinger of Blood, 2 points in Reaper's Ascendance, and then 1 point in Soul Shroud gives us armor per point of intelligence. So it's only about 85 flat armor for us. But if you take that by 4,000% increase, which is what you can get from Soul Feast when you hit a bunch of poisoned enemies, you can see how that really adds up quick, and it's a nice synergy. We also have 4 points in Soul for a Soul for increased damage, 4 points in Reaper's Curse for increased damage and crit chance, and then 4 points in Death's Door so that you have increased damage at low life, which we will be when Death Seal is active. And then when you Reap, you can also get 4% more damage per missing 1% of health, which is a huge amount and really allows Reap's damage to do a little bit better. For Bone Curse, we just have this set up to apply Mark of Death on enemies. It's also when you hit the enemy with it, when you hit them with Soul Feast or with Death Wave, you'll actually get 2 hits out of it. It also does slow for us, which is helpful when you're trying to run away from enemies. So we got 4 points in Conflation, 1 point in Sigil of Mortality, 4 points in Crippling Anguish, 3 points in Iron Maiden, 1 point in Acute Infliction, 1 point in Illusion of Pain, so that when you hit an enemy that has Bone Curse on them, you only get 1 hit, but it is a crit and it will do more damage. 3 points in Brittle Bones for kill threshold, so if an enemy or a boss is down below 12% health, you can hit them with a Bone Curse and instantly kill them. And then 3 points in Cursed Limbs so that the duration lasts longer. This gives you more time to get that 1 hit on an enemy in case your Death Seal is on cooldown or if you don't have the mana for a Soul Feast. For passives, we have 7 points in Blood Aura, 4 points in Stolen Vitality, 5 points in Blood Pact, and 8 points in Forbidden Knowledge for that Necrotic Resist and Intelligence. 0 points in the Necromancer, and then 89 points in the Lich, with 8 points in Survival of the Cruel, 8 points in Apocrypha, 5 points in Grasp of the Fate, 8 points in Dance with Death. This gives us 120% increased damage when we have Death Seal active, which is huge because we're at low life. 8 points in Crippling Insight, 8 points in Unclosing Wounds, 8 points in 30 Plagues for that penetration, 5 points in Deathbringer, 5 points in Dark Guard, 5 points in Clairvoyant Insight for that critical strike multiplier, which will make us hit even harder, 10 points in Necrotic Energy, 5 points in Ageless Ascetic, 5 points in Soul Maul, so we have a ton of Leech, and then 1 point in Mind Over Body for just some more intelligence. And then for idols, items, uniques, and our gear overall, you can see that we have Marina's Lost Soul. This is a really good unique. It gives you a ton of spell necrotic damage, and all of our spells are necrotic, so this is huge. If you're lucky enough to get some LP on one of these, you can definitely get increased spell damage, increased spell crit, increased necrotic damage. Those would be huge to have as a prefix on it, so if you do have a 1 LP, those would be the 3 things you go for. For all the other gear, we basically just went with necrotic damage, intelligence, as much health as you can get your resistances, and then of course spell damage or necrotic damage. Either one of those will work in either slot. They roll at about the same ranges. And then for the offhand, I have an offhand catalyst with spell critical strike chance base for a lot of our spells. This will increase your critical strike chance. However, if you need survivability, which I wasn't having any issues, but if you're going to do tier 4 Jewelra or do bosses, you can always throw on a Bastion of Honor and you'll do a little bit less damage, although you'll still hit really hard, but your crit chance will just be lower. But it will allow you to just have better survivability, especially against hits. And then for the chest and the helm, we have +2 to Reperform and +2 to Death Seal, and then just a ton of damage leached as health while transformed, which means whether it's Soul Feast or whether it's a Death Seal that is doing the damage, you're going to have so much leech that it's just going to replenish it and keep you in your Reperform for much, much longer. And then for idols, two of the major ones, the 1x4s, the best hybrid you can get is increased damage while transformed and increased spell damage while at low life. So when you are at low life, you have a huge amount of increased damage, and on the character sheet when we go over it, I'll show just how high it's getting for us. Then you can also get all of your resistances with some 1x2s and 1x1s, and then we have a 1x3 to apply damned on hit, and this also has poison chance while at low life, which helps you get more poison onto enemies, which then when you use Soul Feast is going to be a bunch more armor increase for you. For the character sheet, as you can see, we have just over 2100 health. Our resistances aren't all capped. Of course, poison will get capped once you use Soul Feast just once, but again, you don't really need to have them capped. It would be nice to have them. If you can despair or seal on some items, that'll definitely get it finished off for you. You can see here we only have 8% armor because we do have armor shred on us, so it is reducing it a bit, but again, once you start hitting some enemies that have poison on them, that's going to go up, especially against mobs of groups, which is really nice because there's a lot of poison, even a couple of stacks on each one. You hit 10 mobs with that, there's 2000% increased armor for you, so you'll easily jump up to 30, 40, 50% increased armor while you're actually in battle. And then for damages, as you can see here, we're sitting at almost 300% critical strike multiplier. We have almost 500% spell damage, and for necrotic damage, we're just over 500%. But again, those are going to go up, so say when I use Reaper Form, boom, everything jumps up, and then when you activate Death Seal, you can see we jump up to almost 2000% of those. Now, while you don't double dip in both, because global damage increases, like when you have Death Seal or Reaper Form, they don't stack up that way, you will see that your damage does jump up quite a bit, though, through using both of those together. And then for defense, we do not have critical strike avoidance on this. This is something that I need the blessing for, and then I'm going to put it on gear. As soon as you have the empowered blessing and a tier 5 blessing, you can have it. But again, I've been running through corruption with this with absolutely no issue, so it's not something you have to have because you have so much leech, but it is something you would want to have eventually down the road to really min-max the build. And then endurance is almost capped. Remember, when you are in Reaper Form, you get damage reduction based on missing life, so stacking maximum life is also very important because for every 10 missing life, you get a bunch of stun avoidance, and then percentage-wise, you'll have 66% missing life, which gives you 33% DR just for being in Reaper Form, which is huge for the build. And then for how to play the build, all you have to do is run around, make sure that you're in Reaper Form, and then just use Death Seal, and you'll notice that it does huge damage. You can do 100k plus crits. Now that damage is really going to go up every time that you actually cast the spell while you have it active, because whenever you cast the spell, thanks to your unique, you get a stack of damned put on, so you can see what the damage was there. But if I start casting a bunch of Soul Feast, which is also going to be hitting really hard, you can see we get more stacks of damned, and it's going to make our damage go up a bunch, and we're doing almost 200k crits by the end of it. Now again, Soul Feast is something when we use it here that you can see is doing about 30,000 damage crits. It can do up to about 50,000 depending on what all you have active. But again, for the armor base here, if you look at how much armor we have, which we're sitting at 12%, if you get a bunch of poison onto the enemy and then you attack them with that, you actually will get quite a bit more. Right there, you can see we're jumping up 56% armor, 60% armor. Like, if you keep using Soul Feast every now and then, your armor is going to be much, much higher, and you can get it to 50, 60% plus armor for damage reduction, and that's why critical strike avoidance and maxing out your resistances are not something you have to have. Of course, they're nice to have, but you just don't have them because you have so much DR, you just don't really feel it, and you have so much leech coming back, your life is instantly replaced. Again, critical strike avoidance, definitely get the blessing for it, and then put a tier 5 on just one piece of your gear, and you'll be fine. As for how to level this build, I will have a leveling guide for it that's based around doing this, but with Hungering Souls instead. It doesn't have Soul Feast or Bone Curse into it, but you can easily transition over to it later. Again, in that build, you're going to still have Reaper Form, Death Seal, but you'll have Hungering Souls. The damage is really good on, and again, I'll be doing a build guide on that one in the end game here soon. Hope you guys enjoyed the build guide. As always, stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.